The Ag Tribes Report is brought to you by Legacy Interviews, a video service that captures people as they really are, so the future knows who they really were. Here are Legacy Interviews guests Mark and Stephanie Mendenhall on the unexpected ease of their experience.
What'd you guys think? How was it?
Much easier than I expected.
Yep.
Much easier. You've made us feel very comfortable.
Was this something that weighed on you for a while?
Did her.
We looked at it and said, well, we'll just wing it. Because, you give this list of figured out this out and figure this out. Oh, well, we didn't get that done.
What we remember, and what we forgot, we'll tell the kids later. Tomorrow I'll say, God, why didn't I tell this story?
Yeah,
or why didn't I tell them
this?
about this? You do a good job of asking questions.
Welcome to the Ag Tribes Report, a breakdown of the top stories affecting the culture of agriculture, with your host, Vance Crowe. The report begins in 3, 2, 1. Let's begin.
Welcome to the Ag Tribes Report. I'm your host, Vance Crowe. Each week, I bring on a new co-host that represents one of the many tribes that make up U.S. and Canadian agriculture. This week, I have none other than Elliott Henderson, an entrepreneur, farmer, combat veteran, Iowa Corn Growers Director, and co-host of the well-known Rush Hour Ag podcast. Elliott, welcome to the Ag Tribes Report.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So what have you been paying attention to lately?
I guess I've probably been paying the most attention to my constituents here in District 3 up here in Northeast Iowa with the Iowa Corn Growers Association. Just watching these ag markets, seeing what's happening with trade, just trying to do the best job I can to represent the people up here.
Now, when you get a representative position like that, is that a paid gig? Does it take a lot of hours? Is it full-time? What do you do there? It
takes a ton of hours, and sure, there's like maybe $100 a day per diem, and they put me up in a hotel room, but I don't know. I know there's days when I'm gone, I'm probably losing $10,000 just going and representing my fellow farmers, but I do think it's important, and it's something that I really hope somebody comes in and desires to replace me someday, because I can't carry all the water on my own, and I really hope that there's a future for this organization, because I think with the representation that Iowa Corn has, it's a fantastic association to represent the farmers here in Iowa.
Yeah, I mean, it is such a big challenge to get people to be able to show up to things. I know I'm on one board, and it is so much effort that my wife has to endure. I know you've got kids, yeah. and our time is so valuable because the value of it gets sucked out through inflation. So to use your time to go to a board is a big investment in the long term. That's all you can chalk it up to.
And I know the hard work that's being done there, and the people that are there are like some of the smartest people I've ever met. And it's frustrating when you come back and you're talking to your constituents and they're just like, well, what are you doing? And you start sharing some of these stories about the action that's being taken. They're like, holy cow, how come you guys aren't talking about this? And it's like, well, we are, but it's just hard to engage with people. So we've got to do a better job of engaging with our constituents.
Well, I think everybody in ag thinks that right now, because, man, we are in a crazy time. Tonight, the stories we want to cover are we're going to talk about Secretary Rawlins going on grain markets and other stuff with Joe Valaklavic. We're going to talk a little bit about what she mentioned and also what she's doing out there. She's been a very unusual ag secretary as far as I can tell. We're also going to talk about California Prop 50 passing, which is going to redistrict rural ag and likely give them even less of a vote. We're going to talk about the Danish cows that allegedly are dying after Bovaer, the Bill Gates-backed feed used to cut down on methane production. And we're also going to talk about how the New York City mayoral race won by Mamdani, could potentially launch a $60 million city grocery project, which we'll see how this goes. But we're going to try and do all that. Then we're going to do the Bitcoin land price report. We'll ask Elliott his Peter Thiel paradox and find out who his worthy adversary is, which before we were talking on the show, it's pretty spicy. If you're watching the show and you're wondering what in the heck is going on, well, once a year I make a pilgrimage to upstate Illinois where I visit a group of my buddies, and I'm in a different shop and I've got to wear the hat because it has gone from being 70 degrees out to being about 40 degrees out, and I think it's headed colder.
Yep.
All right, first story today. USDA Secretary Brook Rawlins highlights a trade deal and farm aid in the podcast interview. She went on November 3rd on grain markets and other stuff with past guest of the Ag Tribes Report, Joe Valaklavic. This is a big show. Apparently what happened is she was supposed to be on a show months ago, then didn't happen. They kept trying to reschedule. It didn't happen. The China deal goes off. And the very next day, Brook Rawlins is on as many podcasts as she can get on to try and talk about what's going on. She talks about the China deal, some of the grain trades that are being made, what she's working on in cattle markets, New World screwworm. But they did it bang, bang, bang fast in 30 minutes. I know you listened to this particular episode, Elliott. What'd you think?
I'm an avid Joe, and I pronounce it Vaklovic, so maybe he'll be listening and he'll pick which one of us says it right. But I do. I listen to Joe every morning. I mean, it's the first thing I do when I wake up. I know my wife's probably like so irritated that I'm listening to him before I'm listening to her in the morning. But yeah, what I think of it, honestly, that was a much anticipated episode that I was really wanting to see. And I had never before ever clicked the fast forward button when I listened to that show. And every time she started talking about something, I was fast forwarding through it, just trying to get to the next question, because I wasn't getting, it was all just fluff, I thought. And I was very disappointed in what she had to say. And I love Brook Rawlins. I think she is an excellent cheerleader for the ag economy or the ag industry, but I just wasn't something that did it for me, I guess.
You know, when I listen to it, I think she's an exceptional speaker. She's talking about so many issues, right? And she cannot vary 1 millimeter from Trump's agenda. And what this made me think of is there have been several times when FFA officers, when they're trying to become the national FFA officer, they'll be introduced to me and they won't talk about like what can they do to prepare themselves, how can they answer questions, how should they think about it, and like I've worked with people that have been in the national office, the president of the national FFA, and what I always tell them is don't do it. And the reason I tell them don't do it is what they're actually training you to do is to say what somebody else wants you to say. And it seems really great. The lights are glittering on you, the spotlight's there, but they're not your words, they're not your ideas. And that's what I think when I see her. She is a super FFA officer, just out there saying exactly what she's supposed to say.
So do you think, like, you remember the last administration, they had a lot of turnover. It didn't take long and they were going through people. Do you think that maybe they've even like polished her to be not like the people of the first administration and stick to, what they want them to say?
100%. I mean, she was chosen, as far as I could tell, because she had spent the years after Trump got out of office trying to do policy work that would get him back into office. She wasn't an ag policy person. She was trying to get him reelected. And so when it came time to choose who should be the ag secretary, I think we were hoping Thomas Massey, maybe see a John Kempf in there, something wild, but when she was brought there, you're like, okay, it is going to be somebody that's going to say exactly what they're supposed to say, which, I mean, as a president, that's a smart pick.
And the first time I saw her was out at Commodity Classic last spring or late winter. And I was mesmerized by her. I really didn't think she was a great choice, just like you were talking about. Well, I had other people I had picked. But, man, she really impressed me out there. I thought she did a great job. And,
what I see there is there's no chance that what she actually wants to do is import Argentinian beef into the United States. Like, she's a cattle rancher. This is not what she wants. The New World screwworm, like all the pressure that she had on her, she doesn't want to be adding that stuff into the system. They're doing it because there's larger picture goals, and that's what's going to upset ag. They're going to say, I know you don't actually believe what it is that you're doing, and so you're one of them and not one of us.
Yeah, and I don't know, this cattle thing, I know I've upset a lot of people here in the last, since this thing's all broke out too. And, I want to be longer cattle. So, and I want to buy beef at the grocery store. So I don't know. I worry about, the whole world getting burnt down at the expense of the American beef producer, because, we want to maintain these higher prices. I do think, we've got to have an open mind to some of these. I
don't know, man. Maybe what we need is high quality beef, and that costs money to make, and that like messing around with these trade deals and importing beef in order to keep the prices down, maybe that's not the right answer.
Yeah, but I don't know. These markets, the way they moved here in the last couple of days, this is all managed money. It ain't like it's beef producers that are moving this market around, or even the buyers of beef. It's managed money. It's the same thing that happens in grains when they want to capitalize on a short position based on the media talking heads that moves the markets when they bring that money in. I don't know. That's probably something I think people should be looking more at.
Well, it's just as far as Brook Rawlins, I have to say she is an exceptional talent, but she is towing the administrative line. It is not her she is speaking for. That's what is clear to me. All right, moving on to story number 2. This is out of California. California's Prop 50 passes. Redistricting raises concern for rural ag communities. I saw this being talked about on X, but it wasn't until after it passed that I realized just how big this is. California voters approved Proposition 50 on November 4th, allowing state lawmakers to redraw congressional districts, potentially shifting 5 seats towards Democrats and diluting rural voices. The measure replaces independent redistricting commissions with partisan lines effective for 2026. Newsom's push to counter the Republican gerrymandering elsewhere, places like Texas. So critics like the California Farm Bureau call it a setback for rural communities as new maps consolidate areas like Modoc County, home to cattle ranchers and loggers, with urban Marin County, which is the rich area of California, who want to support doing things like removing dams and all kinds of other stuff up in Sonoma and Mendocino County. America Unwon has been drawing a lot of attention to this. Seems like rural farmers in California, the largest ag producing state, they're going to be completely dominated by urban areas. Thoughts, Elliott?
Yeah, talk about more of the wrong stuff here. Like, this ain't good. You know, it's not good for America. It's not good for rural America. I don't know. I don't know how you start fixing this stuff.
It seems like, everything is being drawn into a national fight. And what I dislike about this is the states are set up to be independent of this larger, how are we going to get as many Democrats as we can into the U.S. system? And maybe it is not actually how it works in practice, but we're watching what happens when everything gets funneled towards the money comes from the national government. The more the money comes from the national government for all their things, the more there's an emphasis there rather than making sure you have a really strong representative government in your own state.
I haven't been following this story a lot, but it just makes me think here as we're talking, is this going to drive a North and South California? Is this going to drive that someday?
Well, it's funny because just 1 year ago today, when I was doing this last year, we were talking about when I was living in Mendocino County, just north of there, they talk about the state of Jefferson, which is this Northern California area. And I know that Oregon is setting up the stage to try and break away the western part of it. It's basically anything on the leeward side of the country that doesn't get as much rain, but they're the ones doing all the production.
Yep. Yeah, the eastern part.
Yeah, that's right. All right, moving on to story number 3. Danish farmers report cow deaths linked to mandatory Bovaer feed additive. On November 4th, a viral X post highlighted a Danish farmer's claim that cows are dying, which is after they've been mandated to use Bovaer, the methane-reducing feed additive backed by Bill Gates. Farmer reported that the first cow went down on Friday, 2 more on Saturday, and attributing it to Bovaer. This is all alleged, but that tweet went totally viral. I saw it multiple times earlier this week, and so there was a lot of pushback a few months ago on Bovaer, and it seems like more pushback now. Did this hit your feed?
No. I mean, we're not that's not something that's really in our wheelhouse here, but I just, again, why are we worrying about these non-issues? We've gotten way too many. This is the problem with agriculture. We're not getting involved enough. We're not speaking our mind enough. We're not educating the people on what's important and how cow farts is not the problem. And we're just not doing enough. We need to be doing more.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the United States, we are going to end up developing a real cultural difference. I think even the left wing of the United States has seen hey, we've used climate change to effectively raise the prices on everything that we possibly can, cars, your food, everything that we can. Now that we've done that damage and kept prices high, let's abandon that, and now we're going to move towards some other principle. And I see Europe is doubling down on things like climate change and methane, while Bill Gates is making a reverse, beating a path the other direction. I think that it won't take very many years of that being taken out of the U.S. educational curriculum for that to be what are you talking about, climate change? You fed things to cows to stop methane, whereas in Europe, they're just going to keep going down this path.
Why do you think that is? Because they're going to keep sticking the money into it?
I think the cultural changes here. I mean, the biggest reason to me that the U.S. government gave in so much to climate change mandates was because it was a way to funnel money into the system through another means. By putting up solar panels and wind farms. So I think that process is not going to be the way they inject money. The way they're injecting money is now sending as many payments as they can to farmers, as Brook Rawlins promised they were going to do.
Right, but I mean, this administration has stopped a lot of that green stuff from happening, and that was a total racket too. But back to the European thing. So what do you think's happening in Europe? They're just going to continue to funnel those dollars? Because I don't think it's a culture thing. I think it's follow the money thing.
Yeah, I think that it's both. I think that the culture is downstream from the money, and the money is there propagating it. I think that they are just following a different tack. They need to have this decentralized, a lot of their climate change stuff has made it so the farms have stayed small. For example, GMOs were not because they were afraid of GMOs. They wanted to keep more people farming. The more GMOs you use, the more efficient you become, the less farmers you have. They made that as an active choice because they didn't want their farmer class to be pushed out. This is just another way of manipulating the system to get more of what they want. Less efficient cows, effectively.
Sure.
All right, moving on to our last story of the day. New York City Mayor elected Mamdani pushes for city-run grocery stores to combat food costs. On November 6th, CBS News reported that Mamdani is advancing a $60 million plan for city-run grocery stores, one per borough in food deserts, to sell at wholesale prices without profit, covering rent and taxes for affordability. Funding redirects subsidies from private grocers, plus higher corporate 11.5% and millionaire 2% taxes. Stores with centralized distribution, source locally, but face oppositions from those bodegas and supermarkets, fearing government competition. What do you think, Elliott? What is going on here that they want state-run grocery stores in New York City?
Bring on the bread lines. I think you're not gonna drive advancements and better quality of service by having the government do it.
But what do you think is going on in the city of New York that says, hey, we support this? What's making them forget the hard lessons of socialism and communism? I
want to lazily blame the propaganda, that it was just propaganda. But honestly, I think, I think it's bleeding into ag too, where, I read something there on X, those who don't experience the love of a village will burn it down to feel the warmth. And I think that's what's happening here. It's like people don't see prosperity in their path. And if they can't see a way to get there, they're willing to burn everything down to see that nobody else does.
Yeah, I mean, I am with you on at least part of that. I mean, my sense about what's going on in New York is that it has become obscenely expensive. I mean, inflation is going to go there really quickly, the same way it has with agriculture. Where money is dumping into the system is where it accelerates the fastest. And I think it's between rural America and major cities, major metropolitan areas, where you see this inflation, and those people don't have capital. And to your point, they don't feel like they have any chance of getting it. So they're just going to constantly be in the renter class, and that renter class is watching infinite prices go up, but they're not seeing infinite wages go up. They're seeing wage reduction. I think they're scared, and somebody's coming along being like, well, I'll make it easier for you. I'm going to lift that burden using somebody else's money. And I think that seems real appealing if you're barely making your credit card payments.
It's an easy lever to pull for people. And I see that. I do see that coming for agriculture. I mean, I'm well aware of the story of the Holodomor and what happened in Ukraine in the 1920s and 30s. Like, they will come after the prosperous farmers someday.
Well, I mean, it's kind of a hard thing for farmers to sit there and be like, hey, we don't want this socialized thing. I mean, they're getting transfer payments that equal 13.5% of their bottom line. Right. So, I mean, are these people in New York City going to have 13.5% of their grocery bill cut out? I doubt it. I imagine the farmer's getting more money than the person living in the city.
Yeah, you're right. But, when I talk to my fellow colleagues in agriculture, they want to stop this shit. They don't want these payments. And I think it's because they're smart enough to see that this doesn't end well if we continue down this path.
So why do you think ag continues to get those payments? Because I don't. I mean, I think people talk. They talk like capitalists in the coffee shop, and they become communists at the mailbox because they're cashing those checks.
Well, I think a lot of that's, even like in Iowa corn, most of the members and most of the people in the boardroom, they're cautious. They're worried about this. They don't want to see us operate this way. But I think you've got, it's not the farmer's voice that matters in this. It's the people who are taking the money that the farmers spend, and all this money's passed through. So, the big banks, they want these loans paid, and they don't want to have to rewrite these loans and take on the risk. The big equipment manufacturers, sure, man, we don't want to have to lower the price of these X9 combines. And then you got guys like me that are like, I want to stop these payments because I'm sick of seeing the big guy next door continue to pay way too much for rent. And he's got his payments limits now lifted on how much money he gets to bring in from the government. I don't want to make his X9 combine payment for him with my tax dollars. So it's like, now I'm competing against my own prosperity with my own tax dollars. I'm fed up with it. So it's like, maybe I'm one of the guys that's ready to burn the village down to fill the warrant too. I don't know.
It's hard to say. It's very interesting to me because when I look at the local and maybe even the state level, there's a lot less asking for handouts, but you get to the national level and those national organizations are like, we got to do something for the farmers. Let's print more money. But I sense that you're right. A lot of the pressure they're getting isn't from their farmer constituents. It's from these other big groups that are saying, hey, we want to sell you corn in a bag that's pre-treated and it's too expensive if we don't get a payment.
Yeah. And hey, we want these guys to keep paying it. And by the way, we're okay with these guys, following the rules of not replanting the product and following the labels on everything. But we're happy to sell it to somebody else cheaper and they can do whatever they want with the stuff. I just think we got to get serious about fighting back about this.
Well, we tried to talk about the New York City run grocery stores, but I think it all does come down to, like you said, follow the money. So it's good for ag to be policing itself on that. I'm with you. I think most farmers don't want it, but there's a whole lot of money coming out the back of the government towards farmers. Okay, moving on to something that the government can't inflate, and that is Bitcoin. This is the Bitcoin land price report. Right now, Bitcoin is sitting at $100,850, which is down almost 24% from its all-time highs just earlier at the beginning of October. But it is taking quite a tumble. It is a buyer's market. Elliott, how much does an acre of good farm ground cost where you're at?
I've seen land get pretty soft here. My brother just bought a farm yesterday for $12,000, I think $12,500, and has some pretty 85 CSR ground. I thought he got a good buy on it.
And you're saying that's soft. A couple of months ago, it would have been something different?
Yeah, $16,000. Last time I was on your show, I think we were throwing around $16,000 or $18,000. So it's getting softer.
Well, so at 12,500 and Bitcoin at just a little over 100,000, it means that you could buy 1 acre of land with 1.1239 Bitcoin, so about 1.24 Bitcoin, or 1 Bitcoin would buy you just a little tiny bit over 8 acres of land. Elliott, how does that strike you?
You get my opinion on Bitcoin. I just don't. I wanted to say something there about the, who controls the internet, right?
No.
The government can shut your internet off anytime. I mean, they do it all over the world. So is that really something I want to be tied into? I don't know. I caution it. I think there's better things to stick my money in.
So you're saying that your fear of Bitcoin is that the government could shut down the internet and that would prevent you from getting to your money? You perceive that to be a larger threat than to your bank?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the government can shut down your access to a bank. They did it all throughout COVID. They did it, to the people throughout Canada. And you think it's that would be the better system than trusting it with Bitcoin and how it's connected to the internet?
I'm a land guy, so it's like I'm going to pay debt down and operate land. So I'm still going to be pretty firm on wanting to own land.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think land is what if Bitcoin continues to do well, I will use that Bitcoin to exchange it for land. But I'm not worried about the
internet's still ran by the military, right?
Yeah, but that's actually like a fundamental important thing to understand about Bitcoin, because once you have a node, it would mean they would have to keep you off of the internet everywhere all around the world without knowing that's Vance connecting to the internet. And I would actually make the case that once you have a node, it doesn't, unless they can shut the entire internet around off in the entire world, only then could they stop Bitcoin transactions.
Maybe.
I mean, once you understand the structure, it's not a maybe. That's the way that it would be. Anyway, I recommend buying Bitcoin. It is at a great buy price. You can get it on river.com, and one day there may be a good place for us to do a buy sell for land with Bitcoin, but not today. All right, let's head on to the Peter.
Corey just popped in here. He said he just bought some today.
Did he? That's great.
Yeah, I'm in the Farm for Profit studio. I don't know if you figured that out. We didn't talk about that, but yeah, Corey just popped in.
So heading on now to the Peter Thiel paradox. Elliott, what is one thing that you believe that almost nobody in your ag tribe agrees with you on?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of this policy is doing more harm than good. Some people are just now kind of starting to follow that, but I got into a little discussion here on like property tax and H-2A workers. This stuff is walling off the opportunity for the entrants to come in, and we continue to basically have these senior citizen discount type programs that continue to protect the people that have been doing this the longest. And you're going to end up with a Mamdani type event in ag if we're not careful.
Well, I mean, I got to start off right away and say you failed, because I agree with you already on its face. I'm totally with you.
I should have said my hat looks cooler than yours.
Because, I mean, like, you even heard Brook Rawlins talking about, like, oh, we're going to do this to the H-2A program. We're going to do this to the H-2A program. And you're like, well, the reason you have to making all these switches on this thing you can control is because it's too expensive to hire labor. You've inflated the price. We can only import workers from somewhere else. And now you're trying to do a Band-Aid solution by bringing in foreigners to do the work.
Well, I guess I'm trying to go back to this paradox thing here that I was just thinking about there as you were explaining that. But like a lot of these policies that need to get changed, I guess that's where people disagree with me on it. It's like they see themselves as the benefactors to them, and so they don't want to change them. And it's like, we got to get serious about, you got to be a patriot here, and you got to start thinking about how we can restructure ag so that the future has an opportunity to do it. Otherwise, the damn state's going to run the whole damn thing.
Well, that one, I think you're correct. Like, every person that's cashing the check, every person that's retweeting that they're going to get this transfer payment, like, they don't agree with you. They all disagree with you. They want the system to keep going. I think that's a complaint that people have about things like Iowa corn. And what do you say to somebody that says, well, you're right there with them. You're with the checkoff program that's going out and advocating for these things.
I got the answer for you. Get involved. If you don't like it, it's membership driven. It ain't driven by the dollars that Corteva or John Deere's sticking into the association for advertisement. It's driven by what the members want. Their survey goes out every year. Fill the damn survey out. Come to the meetings. Get involved. Call me up. I want to represent you. If you got an idea better than mine, I want it to be the idea that wins the day.
I mean, I think you are definitely one of the lone voices out there. That probably is your greatest Peter Thiel paradox, is you are getting involved. And I know for a fact people that you've hounded to be more involved in Iowa corn to be like, you can't complain about it if you don't show up, because you can ask for I think for Iowa corn, you can get your money back, can't you?
Yeah. It works on membership dollars. So as you're a member, and then you're talking about checkoff probably. So like when you sell a bushel of corn, the association's able to pull that checkoff off. Yeah, you can ask for a refund. I hate that people want to do that or desire to do that, because, really that's like the story of the tragedy of the commons. You familiar with that?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's what it is. You got people that are the smaller guys are willing to put into the thing and try to make it bigger and better. But the ones that are really exploiting all the people that are working are the ones that are taking their check off back. So I don't know. I think it's a damn tragedy, but I also got to take some responsibility for that too, because I ain't doing good enough job, putting the message out there, the hard work and efforts that are being made.
Well, my hat off to you for showing up and trying anyway. All right, let's move to the last section. This is the worthy adversary. This is where I'm going to ask Elliott, who is one person that you respect but strongly disagree with?
Oh gosh, and it's all probably just came about in the last 24 hours here, and I gotta give a shout out to Damian Mason, because like the dude's the man when it comes to like talking about things in ag, and it's like I love his content, but like I can just tell that like when I'm talking about how we need to make some changes to some of these policies, like he looks at it like you're really taking something away from him, and it's like I don't know. I think of that Thomas Sowell quote where it's like. Hold on one second here. I'm gonna just look at it. I know I got it on my phone here. Thomas Sowell, it's like when people get used to preferential treatment, equal treatment seems like a discrimination. And I think that's what's happening with these people is like, oh, you want to, I've had this preferential treatment my entire life, or I'm in this position. And now when you're talking about trying to take some of that away from them, they feel like you're discriminating against them.
And you think that's kind of what Damian Mason interpreted on your back and forth? You and Shay and Damian had a pretty big back and forth.
But yeah.
What do you think his perspective is?
Well, I think he's a landowner. He rents his land out, and he doesn't want his property taxes going up. He don't want to pay the commercial property tax rate that the guy that owns the strip mall or the doctor's office or the dentist office, he wants to enjoy his low property taxes on ag land. And I think that's the case for the 27,000 acres in Buchanan County that are owned by people that don't live in the state of Iowa. It's not available to the entrance of the market because the privilege of owning that land and paying low property taxes is just one of the many things that, our ag sector continues to give preferential treatment to, and it's all been, how do I say, exploited by people outside of ag now, whether it's the John Deere dealers or the landowner that has a tenant farmer on it. They're all capitalizing on subsidy programs. They're capitalizing on the low property taxes. It's all these things with inside ag that we're supposed to be trying to protect the margins of the farmers, that it just gets funneled through the farmer.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately becomes an aristocracy program where the owners of the land have it. And frankly, I mean, from my perspective, this is only going to get worse, because in order to continue to give the amount of money that's going to have an appreciable difference on the farmers, that the value is going down. So you're going to have to print more and more and more. So this is only going to expand in terms of prices of everything. That's not slowing down.
You bring up aristocracy. I mean, you go to old world Europe. This is why we're white dudes. Our families left Europe 200 years ago to get away from the churches and the noble class owning everything. And we are going that way. I mean, the Mormon church is buying everything up around me for ag land. And it's like, I won't be long, and I'll probably live to see the day where, it's just wealthy people that own this land and the autonomous equipment runs on it and it never changes hands.
I mean, I got to say, I got a certain kind of respect for the religious groups that find ways to grow the holdings of their people, right? Whether you're talking about Mennonites, Hutterites, Amish, they found a way to coordinate without government interference.
You're talking about Joel Osteen too, then, probably.
Well, I don't know. Does he buy farm ground?
I don't know. I mean, he's a pretty wealthy dude now. He runs a church.
Well,
I'm a religious guy, so I ain't talking down on religion here, but it's just.
I mean, I just like that it coordinates people, right? It gives them a way to work together for a larger purpose and allows them to do things that you can't do as an atomized unit. I mean, I think one of the worst things that happened to the American public is the concept of the atomic family being mom, dad, kids. Like, we're a network.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you. This ain't good what we've got going on here.
And so, these faith groups coming together and saying, we're gonna work on it, we're gonna help you, we're gonna do this, it's gonna transcend all the people that are asking for the handouts in a way.
Yeah, and I guess probably what frustrates me the most with it is like, people used to die and they'd put a tombstone up, you'd harvest a piece of granite out of the earth, and that was your tombstone. But now today, we've got these trusts, we've got these gifts to these churches, we've got these, gifts of land, the Shriners Association, and we've just totally deprived the next generation of opportunity to build wealth the way that the generation before us had done. And I think it's a theft on the future of our ag community.
You think that's a result of trusts or printing money infinitely? One seems to have a much larger impact than trusts.
No, I'm referring to these trusts being put up as like a forever tombstone in effigy of the person that, made that decision, I guess. So I'm not sure I follow your question on.
Well, I mean, I think like the way that the whole system is unwinding is less to do with consolidation, because I don't think actually farms last that long. I don't think trusts last that long. I think they run out a lot quicker than most people realize. But I think the reason the inflation of the input costs and seeds and tractors and land is all because the government just keeps dumping money into the system. It's not just that there are fat cats, it's that the transfer payments get ever larger because the dollars get ever less valuable.
Yeah, and I guess my problem, if a farm operation's using a trust to make themselves, more independent of other institutions, great. I'm all about that. My problem with it is that the fat cats, you said it. And there's a lot of fat cat type profiteering happening on agriculture, and those fat cats aren't the ones toiling in the earth. And I think we need to get these margins back into the hands of the people that are toiling in the soil.
This is why the Bitcoin standard is of critical importance, because when you use Bitcoin,
yeah, you got to work me on it some more.
This is the key. The key thing is that all these people that you're referring to as fat cats, the reason they're parking their money in land as opposed to keeping it in dollars or putting it in the stock market is they're trying to get away from inflation.
Yeah, but it's also the policy we've got is advantageous for them to do that, and I think it needs some reform. That's my whole point.
Well, this has been a great conversation, Elliott. If people wanted to tune in to your podcast, talk a little bit about Rush Hour Ag.
Yeah, so Louis Zumbaugh, he's a previous representative, and we've got the support of Farm for Profit here. So Corey Tanner, they've been a big part of it, and you'll get some of this pushback between Louis and I. So if you like watching a couple dudes push back on ideas on each other, it's you'll see a lot more of that. I didn't realize this phone call's beeping in here.
Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on, Elliott. If people wanted to find you, where should they look?
Yeah, Rush Hour Ag. It's on YouTube, Spotify. It's on all the platforms, and I'm on X. So I love engaging in this, and I think we've got a bright future in agriculture. We're just going to have to get it lit up.
Well, man, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll have you on again soon.
Thanks, Vance.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. We'll be back next week with another guest to have all kinds of pushback and interesting observations on what's going on in the world. Maybe we'll even have old Corey there, Corey Hilleboe from the Farm for Profit podcast. He'd probably be a good guest to beat up on for a little while. But now that I hear he's buying Bitcoin, it's all good. But this really is going to do it for the show. If you are interested in having me interview one of your loved ones to make sure we capture their life stories so that future generations know their family history, go to legacyinterviews.com to find out more. Also, one thing I have found is tremendously valuable. Some people started going to Spotify and Apple and giving me a 5-star rating, and the show writing in comments. That exploded the number of people that listen to the next few episodes. So if you have just a couple of minutes right now, open it up, give me a 5-star rating, throw a comment in there, talk about what you like and why people should listen. It makes a huge difference. All right, we'll be back next week. Feel free to disagree.
Good negotiation is one where both parties walk away slightly disappointed. That was probably my default world model, BV, before Vance. Well, Vance had a lot of these models that he created. I ingrained a lot of these models so deeply from working with Vance for a long time that I started to re-communicate them to my friends. And my friends' eyes had the same sort of light up of understanding of like, this is a thing that could help me be more effective in life. Whenever Vance let me know that he was working on sort of putting this into more of a workshop form, I was like, yeah, man, I want that for my team like now. If my first 2 employees go through this, so that we have this shared set of context and a shared set of language, that's gonna create value for my team going forward.
I wanted to get better at communication myself. I knew I had good ideas in my head that I wanted to be able to communicate to potential investors, and I was not super confident in being able to do that before.
I thought that negotiation was basically for people in a boardroom, like CEOs, words like shareholder are involved. So I thought that you had to have a lot of resources at your disposal to even care about negotiations.
Both people had to lose, or both people weren't happy in the end. I found that what you both want is achievable by understanding the needs of the other person more.
A negotiation is really a way to solve a problem that you have. You can rearrange the world in such a way where all parties get something that they're happy with. So you don't need to possess great resources to be involved in a negotiation or to really benefit from knowing how to negotiate.
RJ and I initially were two different businesses. It became clear to us over the long term that we would be much more bullish on our shared future if we found a way to actually be one entity, one whole working together. That required us to have what to many would be very hard conversations because we're both CEOs of our own independently funded businesses, but we were able to have conversations and get to the root of what our actual interests and what our actual skill sets were.
Having both people understand this pattern of communication was useful to pull out those tools when we needed them the most in difficult conversations.
It's very helpful to have that quick language to do something more productive than continue to misunderstand or whatever else you're doing.
Building relationships isn't just you communicating to the other person. It's also figuring out how to let the other person communicate to you so that they trust you. Getting into a real conversation and diffusing tensions before you get to business.
A lot of people have a default model where they're I want to raise my own money, I want to start my own business, I want to do my own thing.
We find that they have specific interests that could help us. We become allies instead of competitors.
I guess the course gives you tools to know that you can say the right words to extract those things out of the ether and put them in your life.
Learning interest-based communications from Vance might actually be the single highest leverage skill set that I ever developed before starting this company. I'm by default an introvert. I think that I've developed the ability to interact with people in such a way that it's energizing and it's fun, and I look forward to interacting with strangers on a regular basis.
You should just take it. Just do it already.
Yeah, I feel you should just do it. No, I don't know. I feel it's life content. It's definitely fun life content.
I am doing exactly what I want to be doing with my life. Interest-based communications did that for me, more than anything else that I've learned.